WorryWart here, the creamy, steamy, dreamy voice of YouTube, telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Sony is in a position that they've never been in before. What is going to happen? This huge acquisition. Some are saying it's a monopoly. Some are saying it's not a monopoly. You've got the people that love Microsoft and Xbox so much that if Microsoft bought the United States and turned it into a parking lot, people would support that online. Then you have the people that hate Microsoft and anything and everything that they do is evil. But somewhere in between, I think this is a very dangerous precedent that may be set if this is allowed to happen. And the reason is that you can't simply buy everything and then say it's a competitive market, it's fair. Even if they say, well, we're going to allow all of these games that have traditionally been everywhere to still be everywhere. You still own them. All the cards are in your favor. It's not a very fair market. And what would Sony do in this situation? I'm seeing a lot of people talk about buying something to respond by Square Enix. Well, we're beyond the point now where Sony can simply buy a studio or a publisher and make their games exclusive because Microsoft has so much power now. They've consolidated so much in their favor that the only option left for Sony is to gain leverage somehow in order to go to the bargaining table and say, we would like the content that you have now that's exclusive because you own it to still be on our platform the way that it's been forever. So, for instance, if they were to buy Square Enix, simply making Final Fantasy exclusive to their platform isn't enough anymore because Microsoft owns so much that they need. What they could do is say, do you like Final Fantasy? We own Square Enix now. So if you like Final Fantasy, we like Call of Duty, and use that leverage to maintain the status quo, if you will, when it comes to getting content on their platform. That's the only option left for Sony at this point, with this much purchasing power and this much leverage. And I think it's not about owning things for Microsoft. It's about the leverage and the ability to squeeze their competitors so much that they either conform to whatever it is they want or they get out of whatever industry they're in. Now, you can go back to the late 90s and the antitrust suits for Microsoft when it comes to Windows. Check some of that stuff out because a lot of the same practices then are happening now. And I'm not saying that competing isn't a good thing, but it feels like, and it's hard to make these kind of videos because I know that drama drives a lot of engagement and subscribers and stuff like that, and I don't do a lot of that, which is evident in my subscriber count. But it feels like Microsoft for a long time really loved art and artists, but they never really painted anything great. So instead of working really hard to become a good artist, they simply bought all the art galleries around town. So now every time those artists get together or they want to show their works, they've got to go through Microsoft. So you can't simply buy your way to being a great artist. And I'm not saying Microsoft can't make things good. It's just that it hasn't seemed like they really put their head down and done the work to do it. Now you could say that, well, they purchased all these studios so that they could do that. It's not them doing it, it's these studios. They're doing the same thing they've always done. These games would always be on Microsoft's platform, even if they didn't purchase them, because they're all third party. So this is less about being creative and more about just having tons and tons of control over the industry, which I don't think is a great thing. Also, when you think about Sony's response to Game Pass, and there were rumors that they have a response coming. Think about just a week ago, their response to Game Pass has to be totally different now because in order to make that service attractive, they would have to be able to make deals with big third parties to get games in that service because just first party isn't going to cut it. But now Microsoft owns so many of those publishers that it's almost impossible for Sony to make those deals now for their own service. So they're stuck now having to put their first party games day and date in that service, and they're stuck trying to create more content quicker for their service, which is never a great thing. It takes a long time to make these games, especially the ones that Sony likes to create, whether or not they're for you or not. They're seen as the most creative in the industry when it comes to first party. So pumping that kind of content out quicker now is almost impossible. And they're left with having to make deals with their competitor, Microsoft, if Microsoft even allows them to. Now, I think they had an interesting response to this. They said, quote, "We expect that Microsoft will abide by contractual agreements and continue to ensure Activision games are multi-platform." Now, they didn't mention Blizzard. They said specifically, continue to ensure Activision games are multi-platform. That is a hint that Call of Duty is incredibly important to the entire industry. And for Microsoft to have that kind of control, you know, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I understand that, you know, they want Xbox to be successful, but if you really like video games, think about that for a second. This is a toy that essentially everyone has gotten to play with. And it's almost like that rich kid comes to school and decides to buy the playground where everyone plays with that toy and then say, well, if you want to play with that toy, you've got to ask us if you can play in the playground. So you've never had to before. And because we couldn't create that toy that you really love, we decided to own the playground. Now, again, this could be taken many ways. I'm not trying to make this a console war video. I'm just saying, in general, I don't think when one large company owns almost everything, it ever works out well. Even if you're a fanatic for Xbox, you have to look at this in a rational way as somebody who enjoys playing video games. This is why when I hear slogans like play what you want, where you want, with who you want, or we're not looking to exclude anyone in the industry, I scratch my head and I think, well, you're kind of doing the exact opposite. And I understand it's great for you, and I understand you've got one goal, and that's to make those shareholders extremely happy. But there has to be a balance between doing that and completely squeezing anybody out of competing with you simply because you couldn't compete with them when it came to creativity. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.